Inside the Arena is presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sportsbook.
Welcome to Inside the Arena, your source for everything off the ice, off the court, and outside the field of play. With your hosts, KOMO Sports Director Niko and KOMO Senior Reporter Chris Daniels.
They're still applauding. Episode 63.
After 63 weeks.
Here we are, 63 weeks in. With another very special edition. Just like those after-school specials back in the day. A very special edition.
Well, I think it's important to catch up on everything that we've done.
Yes.
And in the next episodes to come, we'll get back to our weekly guests, and we've got some great ones lined up. But I think that when you talk about 62 weeks prior to this, 61 if you don't count last week's also best of, it's a really special opportunity because we've been blessed to have some great guests on this show. And how fun it's been to talk to them, right?
Yeah, in this week it's wide ranging. Just to get you caught up to speed, we're going to cover the world of wrestling, out of the ring with Tiffany Stratton, making a documentary with the great Kenny Mayne, his Wiffleball documentary, the longtime ESPN talent and local boy, and then Mari Horita, who leads up the One Roof Foundation, talking about the philanthropy arm of the Seattle Kraken and Climate Pledge Arena. They are all good discussions we've had here in the past year.
No question about it. And just naming the guests that you did right there, it shows how fun this show is.
Yeah.
And it shows the versatility, whether it's somebody who's from here, whether it's somebody who's coming to town, or whether it's somebody who's making some awesome things happen. It's pretty cool to be in this town.
And I know you had the interview with Tiffany Stratton. It was kind of funny how it all came to be.
Yeah.
As she was holding up her belt.
We love that.
Someone who was a college athlete, got into wrestling, has now succeeded in wrestling, and you had a chance to talk.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Tiffany will be the first to tell you that athletic background, being a D1 gymnast, was really special. And after you're done with a college career, I mean, think what's next? And she's turned it into this highly lucrative, highly visible career. Wrestling 20, 25 years ago, at least in the women's division, wasn't about being a great wrestler, and it was tough to see, right? But now Tiffany is really, along with so many others that have come before her, really changed the game in that. And she had a huge audience when she came to Seattle as part of the WWE SmackDown, and a lot of fans were there. And gosh, what a fun person to talk to. As you see in the interview, you could tell we had a lot of fun catching up. I told her about a fun moment where my son, who's 3, will occasionally check things out, what's going on. I think he was 3 at this point when we did this interview. And the teacher asked, what time is it? And he was supposed to say lunch or recess, I forget. And Dario goes, Tiffy time, because they have those catchphrases. So that was cool. She enjoyed hearing that. She asked me a video. I'm like, well, no, I don't have video in preschool. But anyway, great conversation. In case you missed it the first time all those months ago, here it is right after the break.
Something big is happening at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, and it's smoke-free. Their brand new non-smoking gaming floor is now open. Experience a whole new atmosphere that's completely smoke-free. More comfort, same excitement. Seattle's closest is now Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Book now and experience the luxury that awaits at Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel. Book now for an unforgettable summer experience. Visit snowcasino.com.
First of all, let's just talk about this last year or so for you. My goodness. The main roster call up and obviously winning that and that belt, it's amazing. Right? I mean, how fun has this year been for you?
Yeah, it's been so amazing. I was actually doing some interviews back on Saturday, and everyone was like, how amazing has this past year been for you? And it kind of just dawned on me. That week, I was kind of just hoping to be in the Rumble as an NXT talent, and now flash forward a year later, that was my call up. I won Money in the Bank. Now I won the title, I cashed in, and I'm champion. I didn't even get to compete in the Rumble because they're all competing to face me at WrestleMania. So that was just kind of like a cool reflection moment that I had this past week.
How special is that, especially, again, how quickly it's all occurred?
Yeah, I feel like you can have, you can be a good in-ring competitor, you can have a good character, good promo, but if you don't connect with the fans and the fans don't like you, or if they don't like you, if you're not getting reactions at all, I feel like That's one thing that you really need as a superstar, as a WWE superstar. And if you're not getting, those reactions, like you're not gonna make it that far. So I'm just super grateful and just how the fans have kind of, accepted me and have cheered me on since kind of day one, since Elimination Chamber, which is coming up soon. So it's so surreal to have so many people behind me and stuff like that.
We talk about how things have been going, and it's not just you. I mean, my goodness, the entire company. I need to tell you, like everything just seems to be at an all-time high. How neat is it to see that? And I guess the second part of that question is your era of superstars is what's ushering in that specialness. How special is that part of it?
Yeah, it's super special. Obviously, right now, it's such a good time to be a wrestler, and it's such a good time to get called up to Raw and SmackDown and stuff like that. We just had Raw move over to Netflix, and actually, SmackDown, NXT, and Raw are all on Netflix internationally, which is so insane. I feel like Netflix is so mainstream. Everybody knows Netflix. I feel like at least one person in your family has a Netflix account. So, the fact that wrestling is now on Netflix is just so insane. And like I said, it's such a great time to be a WWE superstar. And I'm so excited to be a part of this new era and be champion going into that. Just to have wrestling on Netflix in general, I feel like is such a, like, it's like almost like a leap of faith. And, like I said, it's international, like everyone has it around the world. And to be on Netflix is so amazing as a wrestler. And I feel like too, like people are like, oh my god, like that girl's on Netflix, like I saw her on Netflix and stuff like that. So that's really cool for me to hear that and see people watching me on Netflix.
For you personally, I'd like to talk about your journey to WWE, and certainly the athleticism you bring as a gymnast, and we see you doing the flips off the top rope and that sort of thing. You know, I guess I want to talk about from that how you were able to cross train in that way and be able to bring that special and unique talent you have to WWE every week.
Yeah, so I definitely feel like being a gymnast, I had a leg up from everyone. You can have a dancing background, a football background, basketball, whatever it is. But I really feel like there was something with gymnastics that just helped me so much in the in-ring performance and stuff like that. I will say like the character stuff and like the promo stuff was kind of the thing that I struggled with at first. Just because like as a gymnast, you're like a soldier. Like you're told what to do and you do it and stuff like that. So you kind of have to figure out like who you are and like who you want to be in the ring and stuff like that. So that was really outside my comfort zone. However, it obviously ended up working out. And I just, yeah, like gymnastics in general and just being like in sports growing up and like, coming out of whatever sport you did in college and getting signed to NIL, it's been a game changer for wrestling in general, especially NXT. We have so many promising talents down at the Performance Center. So I'm super excited to see who comes out of there.
Take me through the moment you won that belt, and how awesome is it to be able to walk around with that thing on your shoulder?
So, in that moment, kind of like leading up to that, I tried to cash in. I faked everybody out, hit Naomi, was, on Naya's side for what everybody thought in that moment. And then I turned on her. I felt like it was my time, and I was just on autopilot this entire time. And finally, when I hit my moonsault, the moment my feet left those ropes, I was finally like, okay, it's over. I'm gonna relish in this moment. And I grabbed the title, I held it up, I stood on the tippy table, and it was so amazing. Just to hear the crowd reaction and, have all those teases and stuff. And finally I decided to cash in. It was so amazing. And I feel like it really hasn't hit me. I'm going into WrestleMania as the champion. I never thought that would happen. If you were to ask me a year ago, I would have probably laughed in your face. And here I am going into Mania as champion and hoping Charlotte Flair picks me.
There you go. And you're heading into WrestleMania on the road there. You're coming here to Seattle to be able to bring what you all do to this region, to go back to that arena, all of that. How, unique is that, and how much are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, so we have so many different WWE superstars that I feel like if you were to bring a friend who wasn't a fan of WWE, I feel like they would fall in love with wrestling if you were to bring them, because we have something for everybody. So I highly recommend, if you have a friend that's kind of on the fence of watching wrestling or isn't really a fan, I recommend bringing them, and they'll probably leave that arena a fan. Just being in there with the crowd and stuff like that, and hearing the chants and seeing wrestling live, it's so different live.
That's awesome. Well, I don't think anybody's ever taken a WWE Championship belt up in the Space Needle, which is next to that arena. So if you get the chance, you may want to try that. I mean, you'd be making history, I think.
Yeah, I think I may have to take a stab at that.
Yeah, I mean, that was a fun conversation, and it's cool to see the rise of that WWE product, how it's gone more mainstream, and it's more about the wrestling, and it's really cool to see that. No question about
I
it.
went back and watched WrestleMania
Right.
after the conversation you had with Tiffany Stratton. I will fully acknowledge I'm not watching the WWE on a regular basis, and
Mhm.
I will echo what you're saying. The backflips and some of the stunts that they're doing in the middle of a ring in front of sometimes 60,000 plus people, or in the arena setting, it really is different. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How are they not getting hurt?
Exactly. We were thrilled to have her on, and we appreciate the WWE to make that happen. And I'm sure when they come back to Seattle, we'll have somebody on inside the arena then as well.
You know who was also on Inside the Arena is the former star of Dancing with the Stars,
Yeah, how about that?
Kenny Mayne.
And what, gosh, when he showed us the documentary Wiffleball, which I highly encourage you to check out, I believe it's on Hulu. Gosh, man, that was so fun to watch. It's everything you would love and expect from Kenny Mayne, and then some. And we were so cool. It was so cool of him to come by and check it out with us and tell us about the background that KOMO and a KOMO favorite employee has in this show.
Here's Kenny, the man, the myth, the legend,
We love this guy.
from Kent, Washington. Kenny Mayne. He joins us now because Kenny is here really to talk about this great new documentary that you and I have watched.
And enjoyed thoroughly.
Yes, with a misspelling from KOMO's own Joe Wren. Wiffleball. Kenny Mayne, thank you. We know you. We love you from ESPN, but also Dancing with the Stars, as we mentioned off the top. We've seen you at the Sports Star of the Year multiple times, the Seattle Sports Commission. We've seen you at the Northwest Emmys. How are you? Where are you right now? Because you're always moving around the world.
I'm from Kent, but right now I'm in Connecticut, and still awake at my age, 10:14. That's pretty late as we tape this thing, but I'm here for you. And by the way, you mentioned Brent Barry. Love him. I have a great short Brent Barry story. In fact, it figures in the whole Sonic thing because he was with the Sonics at the time. I was in Seattle doing another one of my pretend football stories. We had a guy named Max Kim from South Korea, and we pretended that he was on the Seahawks. They signed him for $1 billion because they wanted to win now. That was the premise. Anyway, I think this was year 2. We did it for 10 years in a row. And Brent Barry were interviewing before a Sonics preseason game. And we finished up with him. He said, "What are you doing tonight?" And we said, "What do you mean? We're at your game." And he said, "Do you want to go to Pearl Jam instead?" And he told me to go to the locker room, dig in his jeans for his keys, go out to he had like a VW bus hippie van, 2 Pearl Jam tickets to Ben Arroyo, which is one of the legendary shows of all time for Pearl Jam. They debuted Man of the Hour at that show. So we left the Sonics preseason game. It didn't matter, and got our story. And I've been friends with Brent ever since.
That's an incredible story.
That is a great story.
Thank you for sharing that. Another great story. I don't need to tell you, but I was into wiffle ball the whole time. Just for our audience that may not be familiar with this documentary, tell us what compelled you to do it, and of course, the story that you tell in it. That man, it's like a roller coaster ride trying to find out the answer to this thing.
Yeah, I mean, it emanated from my time at Channel 11 KSTW. In fact, I think I shot it in maybe my last month or so when I was there. This is the August of '89. Ken Griffey Jr. is a rookie. Harold Reynolds and Griffey showed up at the Seattle Science Center, Pacific Science Center, I guess, technically. Anyway, I didn't know what we were going to do, but we stumbled upon a wiffle ball speed pitch machine at the Science Center, and Griffey and I threw. And for all these years, I've maintained that I beat him in the speed. They had a radar gun. that wasn't very reliable, by the way. And I ran into him a couple years ago, and somehow he mentioned it, and it just hit me like, why don't I just do kind of a silly comedy / real documentary about that event? Because I still had the tape. The tape, I've moved 5 times or 10 times since. It's been in garages and basements and back of trucks and wherever it was. And we couldn't find a way to transfer the tape because it was so old. It was called Beta SP, which used to be fancy. But, this is 1989 we're talking about. And I finally remembered my old friend Joe Wren at KOMO. If anybody would have the wherewithal to be able to transfer that tape, it would be him. And in fact, you guys still have that kind of machine.
Yeah.
We have the big revelation of what's on the machine. We got Ken Burns is in it. The University of Washington professor's in it. The head of Wiffleball, the president's in it. I do my commentary along the way. And it's like a true story. Sort of the real story is like my love of wiffleball, growing up as a little kid, playing it. All these years later, look at me, I'm throwing wiffle balls with one of the best players to ever play baseball. And then we go to find out the truth of what really happened that day.
And Ken Griffey, did he not want to participate? Did you reach out to him? Because he is the central figure in all of this.
He's in there, but he's not in there in 2023 or 4, whenever we shot it. No. He's well represented, though. And it's still, like I said, the real story is the telling of the story. It's sort of like, as we're showing what's happening in the show, we're also showing how we're making it, waiting for Ken Burns, looking at our watch, me deciding what clothes to put on. The things we stumble upon, we kind of snuck our way into the science center. We weren't really supposed to be there, but some girl who was in charge is like, it's about what? It's Griffey, wiffleball? Come on in. So ultimately, we do tell a borderline compelling story about the truth of what happened.
Oh, borderline. No, that was fun stuff. I've actually watched it several times, and that's what I want to talk to you about. Is some people may have that not a story like this, but oh yeah, I beat so and so back when, and they've been telling it at parties and events forever. You took a story like that, and you took us on this, as I mentioned a moment ago, a roller coaster ride. What is it about? And it's the same thing that folks enjoyed watching all those years on TV, whether it was here in Seattle or it was on ESPN or wherever it may have been. What is it about the way you see those kinds of stories and the way you're able to tell it in that unique way that makes it so enjoyable for folks?
Well, it's funny. A lot of the football story I was talking about where Brent Barry was in it, those were true fictional stories. We wrote a script, told people what to say. This was like an earnest documentary. Like, I did it in a little quirky way, but it was really trying to get to the truth of what happened. And you saw it at the Seattle Film Festival, which was really fun. That was a great event to go to. We think we're close to a distribution deal with someone to get it out and let other people see it. And hopefully it's sort of a proof of concept that I might be able to do other ones kind of along these lines. And it was fun doing it. It was fun having no boss and just doing it how I wanted to do it. We had great music participation. Pearl Jam lent us a song. The Head and the Heart sang the credit song that I wrote. Local rapper Sam LaChow did an amazing job over that section where Keegan Hall, the great artist, is drawing a picture, with his charcoal. My brother-in-law, Robert Watson, did a great job on the score. So we had all sorts of good contributions, and it just kind of made the whole thing better and gave it more life. And it was really fun seeing it at that film festival because that was the first time I'd seen it on a bigger screen. I've just been watching it on my computer, which I need to clean still. And, it's totally different from, I think you'd agree, you've seen it both ways, that seeing it on a real screen versus seeing it just on your computer.
Yeah, I felt like we were in a theater at the film festival, but it had the feeling like you were watching Twister, whatever the big film might be, as you know too well. And I want to say this has been enjoyable for folks here at KOMO because, granted, once I watched it, I had to show her, but hey, come over here, you got to check this out. And of course, we all love Joe Wren, and he is a star, if I may.
He is
in this. Take me through your relationship with KOMO's resident video editor and
historian.
I call him Uncle Joe. We would be lost without him.
Joe Wren. Joe Wren and I used to play softball together on a team with Rob Weller and some other folks. And when I was freelancing for ESPN, like for 3 or 4 years before I finally got hired, this is after leaving Channel 11. I would use KOMO principally as my place to go and screen tapes or to edit or to ship it to ESPN on a satellite. So I'd already been in there a million times, through the years back when I was coming up, and always had a good relationship with Joe, and he quickly wanted to help, and you guys were nice enough to let us shoot inside there as well. So that's like a key scene to the whole movie, is the revelation of what's on the tape.
And
although Joe can't spell Wiffleball.
Yeah, I'm a purist. Wiffleball has no H. People think it should, but it's Wiffle. And they told me they trademarked the color yellow of the bat. Somehow, Wiffleball Inc. has patented that color yellow. I assume you can do other yellows and get away with it, but it's amazing. The headquarters of Wiffleball is in Connecticut, and the guy, they told me the whole story. The grandfather who came up with the game, he was out of work, and he wanted to develop this Wiffleball thing, and he cashed in his life insurance and pretended to his wife that he had a different job, but every day he would go off and work on the Wiffleball thing, and turned out it worked out pretty well. It's been going since the 1950s, I think, and they make millions of wiffle balls. They got a factory and they just pump them out, and they're shipped all over the world. And we grew up with it. I grew up on Star Lake down in Kent off of 272. And we played from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. all summer long, every summer as little kids, even into high school and later. Mark Sansevier, my good friend, broke Babe Ruth's home run record in one summer. We used to keep stats on that. So we'd make my sister sing the anthem. We'd light off fireworks and Chuck, either use sugar or flour, whatever was most abundant in my mom's kitchen. We would sneak that out and line the field. So yeah, we took wiffle ball very seriously, and it's funny, it's around the country. There's a whole bunch of leagues, and there's televised games even, and people have these thematic parks. So it's still there. In fact, there's one in Woodway. I just made contact with them.
There you have it.
Yeah.
He took a big swing on inside the arena.
And I think he connected.
Yeah.
It was great. I loved it. What a cool guy.
And speaking of connected, one person who's very connected in this town and tries to connect people in need to programs. She's been doing it for years. She's doing it with the One Roof Foundation and the Seattle Kraken, Mari Horita. Here she is talking about philanthropy and all the other things that the Kraken are doing as it's connected to Memorial Stadium as well.
One Roof Foundation it's a 501c3. It's a public charity, and it is the philanthropic arm of the Kraken and Climate Pledge Arena. And it was really part of the enterprise's original commitment and vision to do something positive and powerful for this region 6 years ago. We were really fortunate, I think, in that respect, in that oftentimes a nonprofit or a social impact piece is like an add-on or something that comes later after the larger enterprise has been formed. But this was always from before day one, part of the plan, part of the vision, and so it's been really integrated in what the organization is all about. 6 years ago, when we were talking about One Roof Foundation and trying to build it alongside the team and the arena and everything else that we were doing, we're really focused on impact and trying to figure out how can we have the greatest impact. And we are a small organization. We have to raise all our money every year, and we knew that if we tried to be all things to all people, it would end up not having much of an impact for the community, and certainly not doing much for our brand. And so we decided to focus our efforts on 3 impact pillars in particular. One is helping to increase access to play, so play equity for young people who are furthest from access and opportunity. The other is to help end youth homelessness in our region, working with thought leaders and also nonprofits in our region. And then the third is helping to advance environmental justice. And what we mean by that is we think all kids should have clean air to breathe, clean water to drink, and clean and safe places to gather and play. And this last pillar really ties into the arena's focus on climate and sustainability. And so that we brought that in to the fold that way.
Why did you want to get involved in this? You've been in it from the start, and you were heavily involved in Seattle's philanthropic community. You had that background, but this was a new thing at the time, an NHL team, and the NHL team is going to start up a foundation. I mean, what was appealing for you to get this going from the ground floor?
Yeah, well, as Todd often tells people, I don't have a hockey background. And when I met with him 6+ years ago, one of I was at Arts Fund at the time. One of our donors, they said, "Oh, you need to meet the CEO of the new hockey team." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Yeah, there's a hockey team coming to Seattle. You should meet him. It's a new organization, and at Arts Fund, any nonprofit, you meet with any C-suite you can." And so I got a meeting set up with Todd just to talk about what he was doing, talk about what we were doing. There was no ask involved. And we spent the entire hour talking about the work he'd done at the Seahawks, at Tampa Bay, and just his vision to do something really powerful for this region by bringing a hockey team here. And I had talked about what we were trying to do at Arts Fund and really expand support for an understanding of what the art sector looked like, because it really was evolving, our population's evolving, so that we could generate more support for a much broader range of arts and cultural organizations. And I didn't expect to have a lot of conversations after that, and they called me the next week and essentially offered me a position. And I said, "Doing what?" And so we talked a little bit more about that, and it was an opportunity to not be the mouthpiece for someone else, but to actually help design and envision the values and the social impact strategy and goals. And that, in any situation, is such an incredible opportunity. And then to do it at a hockey team of all things, because I, like many people said, "What, a hockey team?" But if Todd, our ownership, our leadership, and they're out of the box thinkers. They're big thinkers. It's not. Yes, it is about a hockey team. We hope the NBA, but it's about much more than that. And how can we give back? And how can we leave this place better than we found it? And to be part of that from the ground floor, it's an opportunity of a lifetime.
And how is this foundation different than what we've seen with other sports franchises? I think about the Sounders in particular with the Rave Foundation, but organizations around the country, professional sports organizations, they always seem to have a foundation of some sort or philanthropic enterprise. How is this one different, or how has it evolved over the last 6 years?
Yeah, I think sports philanthropy overall and social impact and community engagement across the sector, across leagues, has evolved. And that has been driven in large part by consumer demand. That the consumers of today and of tomorrow, perhaps more than prior generations, are going to invest in, engage with, and rally behind organizations, sports teams or otherwise, where there's some values alignment, but not just values alignment where you're actually demonstrating a strategy and intentionality and authenticity and transparency and having impact. It's not enough to say we support the community, which of course, no one says we don't support the community, but then what? And what does that mean? Because it's a very broad statement. It can mean very different things to different people. And so to have some thought behind what that means. And because we were new, I mean, being new, has its challenges, obviously, but it also has the luxury of not being burdened by old thinking and status quo and the way things used to be. And because, as you know, we had such out of the box leadership behind us. So you say, okay, what are best practices? What have we learned from the past? What does the future look like? And to take the time to talk to communities, to talk to foundations, to talk to other sports teams, and then build that with a really forward-looking, future-looking perspective is we felt like it was a huge luxury. I will say in Seattle, and we talked to all the teams, different teams and their foundations before we put ours together. There is a shared understanding of this evolution. And you mentioned the Sounders in particular, and their organization, not their just foundation, has a whole social justice framework. So we are fortunate in this region to have teams and players and owners and fans who understand that sports occupy this really unique and powerful sphere of influence, and that we should be thoughtful about how we leverage that. So it's, we like to think we're different, certainly, and we are trying to listen to the community that we're serving. We're trying to eliminate the power dynamic of, the donor versus the recipient. And we really want to see about partnerships. But I will say that Seattle sports team nonprofits probably are cutting edge across the country, across the leagues in this way.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is so fun. And we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming next week. Some fun interviews coming up in the weeks to come. But that was a fun look back. No question about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure Mari Horita ever thought she'd be in the same sentence with Kenny Mayne and Tiffany Stratton.
I like that. That's a great mix.
Yeah.
And also, before we go, can we give a shout out to some of the Seattle stars that made it in Happy Gilmore 2? Kelsey Plum, UWM, has a cameo. And then, of course, you've got Freddie Couples in there as well, asking for some dessert. And anyways, I just wanted to mention that.
I kind of did a double take when I saw Kelsey.
I was like, wait, isn't that Kelsey? Yeah, it is Kelsey.
I want to know the background on how she made it into that movie. Somebody's connected to somebody.
It was good. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good trip down nostalgia lane. And, of course, made by the amount of cameos. Some wrestling stars, some golfers, a lot of golfers, you name it.
And special thanks as well to Bill Fesh, everybody.
Hey,
Bill Fesh. Wait, let's get there we go.
Do you have a camera on yourself, Bill?
No, he doesn't have a camera. All right.
Give me a pound. We'll see your fist here.
Oh, there we go. The Bill Fesh fist. David Lee, take us out.
You've been listening to Inside the Arena with Niko and Chris. Please subscribe on your favorite platform. Until next time.
Inside the Arena was presented by Snoqualmie Casino and Hotel, Seattle's closest sports book.